If I have a difference of life opinion than other people, the life opinion that I have is a difference that I share only with no one except myself. The difference of life opinion is the life opinion of no one sharing their life opinion and a life opinion that knows no life other than their own life to be the opinion that they share. If you have an opinion of life, but your opinion of life is only directed by your own experience of your life, but you don't share any other thing than your own perspective because your life is the one perspective which you direct your judgments or your prescriptions of how life should be lived by others. If you do such a thing, then when you prescribe a way to live life and it is only your prescription of your life that you have because your life is what you learned from rather than the lives of others, when there is no way to prescribe a better direction of life than your own because you know no other lives for which you learn from, then you're someone who doesn't have a real way to prescribe how to live life other than your own life. But if your life is a life that you've lived well without mistakes or without suffering or without much suffering whatsoever, but you cast judgment on other people as less life because they've suffered not like you, or they've suffered because they couldn't do what you did, which was to live a life without suffering. When you tell someone that their suffering that they experience is suffering that others experience, is not fair to say. A person's degree of suffering is different no matter what you say. Suffering is not of equal merit or equal weight no matter what. Dependent on the suffering is only the person's experience of what the suffering does to them. The degree and severity of the experience is also theirs and theirs alone. To say that suffering somehow is owned by everyone in a universal way is to say the wrongest thing about someone's suffering. Your suffering is not my suffering, is not your suffering to say is less suffering or more suffering until you know exactly my suffering and I know yours to compare and to say that our suffering is different in such a way. Because if you say your suffering just is of equal merit, but you don't know what suffering of a true type of degree that someone else is going through, you are wrong to tell them that their suffering is of no merit and no concern to you because you have the solutions for them to be able to be prescribed because you know how to live and choose to be above that kind of suffering. You know nothing about suffering of that degree if that's how you've learned suffering until you compare notes with people and notes with a person if they are the ones who say their suffering is more than yours simply because they have a better attenuation to what suffering might be because greater suffering knows suffering. Lesser suffering does not know suffering until it knows what greater suffering is when greater suffering speaks to them from the knowledge, not the wisdom of the experience. The wisdom does not exist yet for that greater suffering to say, I'm wiser than you. You, the person who judges wrong to say their suffering is of equal merit, is a person who is of less mistake and up to that point wiser than them, yes. But you're not someone who can teach them anything is not true. You can teach them, but you can't teach them the right thing all the time. You can teach them the wrong thing by telling them that they're wrong, by telling them that you're right and telling them that they can't be right because you're the one who knows what's right when you have been the one who's lived right and they the ones who live wrong. And when they live wrong, that means that they must be wrong universal in their way that they live life, no matter what they say, because you're the one who has lived it right. No, you're the one who's lived your life right. You haven't lived life right because life of experiences of such very degree are not yours to speak on. You cannot speak to an addict about how to correct themselves when you don't know how to correct an addict if you give advice on how to correct life that you've never experienced. You cannot correct an addict's life if you don't know addiction closely or truly. If you're someone who knows addiction but doesn't know it from a medical perspective, then you're a novice at it. If you take advice from other people who are more educated or more attuned to what addiction does to people, then you're taking secondhand advice from someone who should not be giving advice to anyone to give secondhand advice to anyone at all, when the seriousness of what an addict life is, when they try to improve or try to get the reprieve that they may give themselves by taking a hard look at their addict life and direction and making the choice that the suffering that they endure is a suffering they will no longer endure because they are determined and resolved to correct their direction. When you're someone who advises an addict that their life is worthless at that moment because you say, you're not worth our time. Why should we care? Why should you matter? Why should what we are able to do to help you be anything we offer or anything we give when we decide that we don't believe a damn thing you say? We don't believe you because you're a liar, you're a bum, you're nobody but a no good addict. And an addict is a loose cannon. An addict is someone who's not predictable. The only thing we know about an addict is that you're a bum, that you're nobody, that you're nothing, and you're not worth the love of us to help, and you're not worth the love of your children to speak to you because you're worthless to them too. When you speak to someone that way, you are so disrespectful to yourself as a human being to tell an addict of any type that you know more about life in any way because you know nothing about life. When you don't give value to life and you don't deserve to be someone who shares life other than the life that you have with whomever you wish to share life with. You live an ignorant life is not true, but you live a life that can be redeemed by being the person that understands that when someone is truthful and honest and you dismiss their truth and you dismiss your ability to help simply because you wish to help yourself be the person that dismisses their life from your life. A family member that you dismiss in such a way is a family member that you throw away. A family member that you show no love, a family member that you show no care, a family member who more than likely, if they told you, I would never do this to you, I would never do that to you, and I would always be here for you if ever you needed help to any degree, regardless if it was less, worse, or more than what help I would need. If I could do it, I would do it. But when the help that you might be able to provide is no help really at all, that does any harm to you, takes anything from you, hurts you in any way, but you refuse to help simply because you used your judgment of what you think is right, simply because you wish to not have to deal with that addict in your life, not because you have dealt with him, but because you haven't dealt with him. And now that you do, you don't like the way it feels, you don't like the way it is, you don't like what you can or cannot do for them because they won't listen to you because they're too dumb to understand that you know better than them. When a person that's an addict is not someone dumb. A person that is an addict is a person that can be smarter than you, more capable than you, more able than you to understand the nuance of what it is to correct their life. And if you're the one that says that they can't, then you're the one that's wrong. An addict who's determined to regain their life, revive their life, rejuvenate their life, and is serious about it can only be proven to be serious if you give them the credit that they ask for, which is to trust them long enough to see the results come to fruition, and for you, the one who judges, to take the time to invest in them, in the time that you can invest to see their development, their progress, or improvement in a real measurable way. And if you do not choose to measure progress of their kind in any way other than to say it is progress that deserves no merit because you can't measure it, then you're someone who's not willing to really help. You're just someone who's just saying shit and not being helpful at all. So if I'm harsh to those who help but don't help, it's because when someone wants to help someone, help them. When someone doesn't want to help someone, don't help them. But if you decide that you need to help someone, but they repeatedly tell you, your help is going to hurt my life more than you ever could frickin' imagine, take that seriously. You're not doing something good. You're doing something hurtful and something wrong to a person that doesn't deserve it. And there are many addicts who experience that exact thing. Millions, maybe thousands for sure, all over the world. When family turns their back, when family is who they turn to, and when family decides they will not turn to them simply because they do not wish to be a help to someone that they decide does not deserve the help that they offer, because they refuse the help that they offer simply because they want to be an addict, because the help that they say is best is not the help that the family member agrees to help with. Doesn't mean that you're wrong to refuse helping, but if you're going to hurt them by saying you're helping, you're wrong to utter those words. You're wrong to utter that opinion. You're wrong to share it in any way. And you're wrong to share your opinion of that person, that family member, if your opinion is poor, if your opinion is judgmental, if your opinion is essentially a character assassination of them as an individual who you no longer recognize and you no longer see as good for anyone, including you, but you're pitifully condescending to them as if you're the one who knows better than they. You're not the one who knows better than they. They're the ones who suffered. You haven't had the degree of suffering that they have had. And it's a harsh way to speak, but when family members can be the ones that hurt family the worst, because when family is what family turns to, when things are the worst, there is no one else to turn to. When the worst of what a person is about to experience is the worst of which they do not wish to experience. And if they have never directly asked you for help, and they do, and it's the first time, it's help that they seriously need because they have nobody else to turn to that they trust. And you betray that trust by dismissing them, by condescending them, by diminishing them, by being someone who just judges them like they're a stranger to your life and saying they're not worth life in your life. You're not right to do that, as God tells me. God tells me it's wrong. And it's with that I say, good day, good afternoon, and good night. And to all the addicts who experience such a thing, I pray for you, and I pray for your life, and I pray for you and your family members to love you better, love you longer, and use their connection to you as a way to help them to understand that the life that they have is the life that you had, and now the life that they have apart from you is the life that they can help you regain, because when they were on the same path as you, and you're the one about to lose everything, don't think that they can't help you. They can. But if you don't deserve it, you won't get it, because God won't let you have it as an opportunity for help. But if you want help and you ask again and again and again until it sinks in to your family that you're serious about the help. You're not trying to hurt them. You're trying to get help from them. And that's the bottom line. Amen.